You'd think that with a net worth of $220 million, Gordon Ramsay's children would be spoiled. But this famous chef isn't even leaving money to them in his will. But it's not quite as mean as it sounds. Gordon just doesn't want his kids to be spoiled. That's why he's got a bunch of strict rules they have to live by, including not eating or working at his restaurants, limited cell phone use, and some pretty interesting rules about dating famous people. I know you're curious about what it's like to grow up with the host of Hell's Kitchen, so let's jump right in. The best thing about having a famous chef as a father is getting to eat his amazing food. But Gordon Ramsay's cooking is only for his family when he's eating at home. None of his 5 children are allowed to eat in any of his restaurants. It's not because he wants time away from his family, but because he doesn't want his kids to get any kind of special treatment. He has said that he doesn't want them to feel privileged, and he also doesn't want other people in his restaurants to treat his children any differently. So while Gordon Ramsay is busy making about $60 million a year between his restaurants, reality TV appearances, and other businesses, his children won't be getting any VIP restaurant outings. Eating isn't the only thing the kids aren't allowed to do at their father's restaurants. They're also not allowed to work for him or get any of their friends' jobs with him. Gordon Ramsay learned the hard way that working with family usually doesn't work out. His father-in-law, Chris Hutchison, used to be the CEO of Ramsay's business empire before he ripped them off. The family found out that he had stolen $1.5 million from the company, horrifying both Gordon and his wife Tana. Since then, working with family is a huge faux pas. Gordon himself has said of his daughters, quote, "If Megan, Holly, or Tilly ever say, 'Hey Dad, my boyfriend is executive chef at the Ritz and he's got aspirations to open his own restaurant,' it begins with F and ends with F. There's no way I would ever consider it. Business and family don't work." End quote. But his kids aren't desperate for employment. His oldest, Megan, is a psychology major. Holly has signed with modeling agency Established Models. Jack joined the Royal Marines, but he's also shown interest in sports and becoming an actor, while Tilly is the one who has followed in her father's footsteps and become a successful TV chef. Even amassing an estimated net worth of almost $1 million, Gordon's 5th child, little Oscar, is just a baby, so he's not working quite yet. It's good that Gordon's children are starting to make their own money because they won't be getting any of his. He has stated over the years that, quote, "You don't come into cooking to get rich," end quote. Being rich was never his goal, and he wants his children to work toward their future without a handout. When speaking about their family dynamic at home, Gordon explained that, quote, "Tana came from a super setup, and I'm just educated rough from a council estate. So we met in the middle and the kids bounce off both of us. They have a completely different life than I did growing up. I worked my arse off to get out of the mess that I grew up in, and they're grateful, not spoiled." End quote. But the Ramsay family does give out a little bit of money as an allowance to help the kids get by. When at university, they get £100 a week, which is roughly $131 and 63 cents, while those not at university get about £50, around $65.81. The kids use that money to help them pay for their own phones and bus fare, as well as to save up for their own clothes. And about Gordon Ramsay's will, he says that, quote, "It's definitely not going to them. And that's not in a mean way. It's to not spoil them," end quote. Instead, most of his money will be going to charity. But he has agreed to put 25% down on any apartment that the kids decide to rent. Part of being privileged means learning to give away money that you don't need. Gordon and Tana Ramsay have always been big on donating to charities and want to instill that same compassion in all of their children. Each of them are involved in charities such as Great Ormond Street Hospital, with Gordon explaining that he is, quote, "the most unselfish chef in Britain today," end quote. That means he makes sure that his kids know it's important to give back and remember that everyone is equal, even if your dad is a famous chef. Some of the charities Gordon and his family support include the Elton John AIDS Foundation and UNICEF, as well as the Gordon and Tana Ramsay Foundation. He decided that for his 52nd birthday, he would set up a fundraiser to generate donations for the foundation and raised over $33,000 just on Facebook. That's some amazing work for his kids to look up to. Another Ramsay tip for raising non-spoiled children is not letting them do anything fancy that they didn't work for. That means that flying first class is strictly off limits, unless the kids manage to afford their own tickets. Gordon explained, quote, They don't sit with us in first class. They haven't worked anywhere near hard enough to afford that. I say to the chef stewardess, make sure those little ones don't come anywhere near us. I want to sleep on this plane." End quote. It might seem a little bit harsh at first, but it totally makes sense. On average, first-class tickets for domestic flights in the U.S. cost at least $1,300. But travelers are looking at higher prices to fly first class internationally. We're talking $5,000 and up. If the Ramsay kids want VIP treatment, they're just going to have to buy it themselves. Gordon Ramsay and his wife also have some interesting dating rules for their 3 daughters. The couple is quite close with another famous couple, David and Victoria Beckham, who together are worth a whopping $900 million. But despite the Beckhams being rich and good friends, Gordon has forbidden his daughters from dating any of the Beckham boys. Quote, "Over the past 10 years, we've naturally got on," he explained. "I see how hard David and Victoria work. We feed off each other," end quote. He told TV Magazine that, quote, "3 girls and a boy and 3 boys and a girl, you'd be amazed at the synergy. We've promised that no one dates anybody," end quote. And so far so good. While all the kids are pretty close friends, they haven't ruined the friendship dynamic by dating. Well, at least not yet. There's only one thing more important than who the kids date, and that's what they eat. Gordon Ramsay has stated that he would hate it if any of his children ever became vegetarian or vegan. His favorite meal to cook is beef Wellington, and it's his daughter Tilly's favorite too. If his children were to ever turn their back on his culinary world for a strictly vegan approach, this famous TV chef would have a meltdown. Gordon even told the Daily Mirror that if his kids became vegetarian, it would be his biggest nightmare. If one did happen to go for it, he would sit them down on the fence and electrocute them. We're sure he wouldn't, but it really drives his point home. They should appreciate all the food they're given. To appreciate their food, they also have to know where it comes from. That means the Ramsay children can't be squeamish about raw meat or animals being slaughtered. In fact, Gordon wants the kids to know where their food comes from and how it makes it to the plate. During the first season of The F Word in 2005, the Ramsay children appeared on the show and saw the birds go off to slaughter. Tilly was a bit concerned, but Jack was curious as Gordon explained how the turkeys would get turned into sausages. Some people might think that young children don't need to know the gory details, but Gordon isn't about to shelter his kids from the reality of the culinary world. Let us know in the comments down below if you agree with his no-nonsense approach. So while they can't be vegan, the Ramsay children do have to maintain a healthy diet. Tilly once explained that, quote, "Mom tries to keep us all healthy, but on Friday night we are allowed some crisps and dip after school before dinner. That's our weekly treat," end quote. Gordon Ramsay says there's a reason that he's so strict, and it's mostly because of Tana. Quote, "My wife is a school teacher, very disciplined. If you think I'm tough, trust me, and wait until you see when the children are on the naughty step," end quote. He went on to explain that as a couple, they decided Gordon would work hard and Tana would take charge of the home life. It seemed to work out for them so far, since all their children have an appreciation for food and cooking, and have continued to eat healthy even after leaving the nest. Gordon Ramsay might be a potty mouth on TV, but he has strict rules at home about the language his children can use. There is no swearing allowed whatsoever, but he doesn't hide his own language from his kids. He explained, quote, "They know I've said bad words. I say it as an industry language. They don't swear," end quote. In fact, at home, Gordon never really swears. His daughter Tilly has stated that he's just a teddy bear and that he laughs all the time when he's with his family. We're sure all the cooking show contestants he's mentored over the years would love to see that. In addition to no swearing at home, there is a very strict phone use limit at the Ramsay household. When the kids are home, there are no devices allowed at the dinner table or in the bedroom after bedtime. Gordon once again pinned this rule on Tana's work as a school teacher, saying that she's pretty severe with her no phone rule. But the famous chef completely agrees that having a phone around all the time isn't good. He avoids press about himself and social media, and he wants his kids to grow up doing the same. Gordon knows the importance of an organized kitchen and of taking responsibility, so his kids must help with the cooking and clean up after every meal. He explained, quote, "They tidy up after each and every dinner. It's a system. It's important they help set and clear the tables. It's important that they cook. It's important they do their homework," end quote. But Gordon Ramsay doesn't want his children to follow in his footsteps. If they decide to, like Tilly has, then that's great, but he puts zero pressure on them becoming master chefs. He says, quote, "They all cook as a life skill as opposed to a career. I never want to put that on us or them. I don't want them with a badge going into a kitchen with people thinking that's Ramsey's daughter or that's Ramsey's son," end quote. That means that there's no special treatment for his kids, but also no expectations for them to become just like their dad. The Ramsey kids may have a lot of rules to follow, but they always know that their father has their best interests at heart. Which of these rules do you think are a little too strict? And which ones do you completely agree with? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to The Richest for more. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.